Just talk to us a little bit about your training over the last couple of years, how it's evolved, how it's changed. I know you started working with Roy Jones. Just tell us a little bit how your training has evolved.
Yeah, that's a good word. Evolved is indeed what has happened with my training regime over the last year and a half with Roy Jones Jr. out in Pensacola, Florida. I haven't had a full-time trainer for a large part of my career, and that changing in the way that it has, having such an experienced man in Roy Jones with me every single day, hours and hours in the gym each day, just working on all these things that I didn't really. It's not that I didn't know them, but I didn't put them into practice in training, He's just opened to my eyes to a lot of different aspects of the sport, whether it's physical, whether it's mental, whether it's tactical. So it's definitely brought a whole new dimension to my game, I feel, and I'm going to be using these dimensions in my next few fights for sure.
I was just going to say that the physical is one thing, but the mental is another. He was a champion for so many years, lived like a champion, everything else. What impact has he had on you outside of the gym or outside of the ring?
That's the thing about Roy. He is what you see is what you get. My father, he's a life coach. He is, an advisor, a mentor. He's obviously trained me and worked on things with me over the years, but not in a full-time capacity like a full-time trainer would do. Roy is all about boxing. It's like there isn't anything else outside of boxing. Boxing is life. Yeah. The gym is life. The road, the running is life. He's not bothered about anything outside of the ring. Outside of the ring, he doesn't want to teach you, how to be a good guy outside of the ring, or he doesn't. He's fully focused on the boxing, and that's exactly what I needed. I needed that. I needed that focus. I needed that stability. I needed that day in, day out work, and he's dedicated. And I was shocked when I first went out there. I wasn't expecting that from Roy Jones Jr. Watching him as a kid and looking up to him obviously as the world champion that he was. I never thought that I'd come into his gym and he would spend the amount of time he spent training me. I thought I'd go there and he'd be there for half an hour every few days. I hit the bags, do that, do this. And he just But he is a trainer in the truest sense of the word. He was on me from the word go. He never lets up. So yeah, Roy has been a blessing in my career for sure.
You said something there that kind of rings through when you said you looked up to him as a kid. I know you're already motivated. I know you've got goals and everything else. But did it give you a little bit more going training with someone that you've looked up to? This is one of your inspirations in boxing.
Absolutely. You want to be better. You want to perform. You want to do well in sparring. You want to show him that you're working on the things that he's been teaching and telling you each day, because of the respect that's there. Because of the admiration, because you've looked up to him. You want to do right by him. And for me especially, being so successful in the sport, it was hard for me to get that feeling from just any old trainer, because it's like, all right, well, what have you done? Yeah. What have you done for me to believe in everything you're telling me?
Yeah.
Not to say that trainers can't be great trainers without being successful in boxing, because actually most trainers who are the best trainers aren't, they haven't had successful boxing careers, but I don't know. It was just a thing for me personally where if someone's telling me something that's been there and done it, then it really grabs my attention. And I really,
especially to the extent that Roy has.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why I've listened to my father so much over the years, because he's been through it. He's been there. He's done it. He's tried and tested.
Yeah.
It's not just, oh, I saw this guy do it, so this is what we should do.
Let's move on to your career then. Your immediate focus is Marcus Morrison. Just talk to us a little bit about that fight, what you expect to see from Marcus and how you've been preparing for it.
I really don't know a lot about Marcus. This is one of those fights. I've been out of the ring for a long time. I need to get back in there and shake off some of the cobwebs against a solid opponent. He's not a world beater. He's not gonna. He's not gonna provide too many obstacles, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. And that's the mistake so many make, that they look at somebody and they think, oh, well, I can take this guy. And then, a different guy shows up on the night.
100%.
And that's how upsets happen. So, not to say I'm taking the guy lightly or overlooking him, but I know what I am. And I'm a pretty good judge of character when it comes to other fighters. So, I don't see him being something I can't deal with. So it's for me to get in there, do the job, look good, and then go for a big name which fans can really get behind in the summer.
Well, on that topic then, the announcement when you signed with Sauerland, now Wasserman, you signed with them on a multi-fight deal. I know you're not going to look past your opponent or look through your opponent, but you've said it there, you want these big names. Ask a silly question, who's at the top of that list? Who do you want, should everything go to plan, against Marcus Morrison?
The end game for this year is Gennady Golovkin. 100%. I wanted that fight for years, and he's the number one guy in the middleweight division. Mm-hmm. So that is the fight I really want, and that can be made. I don't see how why it wouldn't be made. Who else is there that people want to see him fight? I'd give him the most entertaining, the most competitive fight out there, in my opinion. So he's number one. But there's a lot of big names out there. You got Royalton Murata, who has the full WBA world title. I'm the interim holder. So that's a big fight, and a fight that I want. Charlo, all these guys at the top of the middleweight division. I'm coming for those belts.
Yeah.
There's a lot of politics in boxing, so some of those fights may be hard to make, but I want to be back in the ring soon after this fight here. So if people are talking about Kell Brook maybe for the summer to get me on the right track, ready for an opponent like Golovkin. That never really crossed my mind up until everyone started talking about it. But now, when you think about it, it's a fun fight. It's a great fight. People want to see it. So I'd be happy to jump in there with. There's a few other names that Calais told me, so it's just for them to do the matchmaking and for me to show up in the night and put the work in.
There was some talk when you first signed with Sauerland about potential Liam Williams, who now is obviously going on to fight Demetrius Andrade. Is that going to be a fight that you're keeping an eye on this weekend?
Yeah, it's for a world title fight, right? Mm-hmm. In the middleweight division. I have to keep my eye on it. I've never watched a Liam Williams fight before. This will be the first time, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't expect him to win. But if he does, wow, that puts him in a serious position.
Yeah.
That makes
world
him,
champion. To be a world champion.
So then, all the talk, all the insults and the disses that he's been throwing my way over the last year or two, he will then have to back that up.
Yeah.
Because he'll be in a position, he'll be a target then. Right now he's not a target, he's just a guy. He's just a guy with a big mouth. You give that guy with a big mouth a world title, he has to defend it. He has to put his money where his mouth is. So, that'll be an interesting fight. I'll be watching it, and we'll see what happens.
I hate to ask you about it, but the other fight that's going to happen in the not too distant future, I saw you made a comment the other day about not backing Billy Joe Saunders against Canelo. He's replied saying you should buy a seat and come and watch it. That fight's a big fight, but again, it's not in your division exactly, but is it one that you're going to be keeping an eye on?
Of course. I mean, I'm keeping an eye on it because it's Canelo, not because it's Saunders. Saunders is, he's irrelevant in the sport now. He does have a world title, but he's fought nobody. I'm the only guy he's fought, and that was, 6 years ago or something like that. Yeah. How can you not have fought anybody of caliber or of note for 6 years? It's crazy. Been done on failed drugs tests. Been an absolute moron outside of the ring. Hasn't held. Hasn't represented the sport of boxing well at all. So Canelo will be doing a public service when he takes him out. Get him out of the sport, or at least take the title off him, because he doesn't deserve it. He doesn't deserve to be called a world champion. So yeah, I put a £10,000 bet on Canelo to knock him out, and once that happens, if he doesn't retire, then I'm sure that fight can be made. It's a fight that people are always going to talk about. I'm campaigning at middleweight. He's a super middleweight, so when he loses, if the fight was to be made, he'll have to come down to middleweight. And but again, he's not in my train of thought. Canelo is. Canelo's a different story.
Yeah.
Canelo is the guy. Canelo is the target. He is the most recognized name in the sport, probably. Him and only Joshua. He has, and he has. He has to fight. He has to find somebody who's going to give him a fight.
Yeah.
And these guys are going in there, and they're already beat.
How would you compete with a Canelo? If that fight was announced tomorrow, how would you? What would your tactic?
Fire with fire. Look at all my fights. I don't back down from anybody.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are going in there and they're in survival mode. Adam Smith, Kovalev. Yildirim. These last few fights, it's been embarrassing. These guys they're just surviving until they get knocked out. They're just trying not to get knocked out.
Yeah.
They're not going in there thinking, I want to hurt this guy, I want to get him. I'm the only guy that wants to go out there and get him.
Do you see Saunders taking the same style, if you like, try and not get knocked out?
What else can he do? He can't punch. So he's not gonna stop Canelo. So he's gonna try and weasel his way out around the ring and survive, which is what he did against me. That's what he did against me. The only thing is that in my inexperience, I let him be that weasel for too long early on in the rounds, early on in the fight, and then once I got to the 5th round, the 6th round, I realized this guy's a weasel. Let me treat him like a weasel, and then I just beat him up. obviously Canelo's not going to give rounds away like I did, and he'll take him out, in my opinion. And then Canelo's in that position again. Who does he fight? Who's going to give him? Who's going to give him a real fight? Who's going to go in there and put it on him? There are very few fighters that have that mentality. I'm one of them.
If you could send that message to him, what would you say to him if you walked in here now, Canelo?
I don't need to send the guy a message. I've said this, I've said what I'm saying to you now many times before.
Yeah.
It's just I just need to get myself in a position to where that fight can be easily made.
Yeah.
So once I win a world title at middleweight, once I beat a Golovkin or a Charlo or a Murata, whoever, get that title, there's no reason why the Canelo fight can't be made.
So just finally then, because I think that might be starting up around us, just finally, the plan is beat Marcus Morrison, go for a world title, and then you have that stock, if you like, to go and pull in a Golovkin or maybe even a Canelo. To
fight, I should be able to fight a Golovkin now. In the middleweight division, I'm really number one contender for all the belts. I'm the best middleweight in the world that doesn't have a world title. So the Canelo fight could be made. I was going to fight him a few years ago. So all those fights, they're there to be made. It's just for the Allen brothers to do that. And once I win those world titles, then it's time to get in there and give Canelo what the fans want to see, and that is fighting fire with fire.
I agree. Chris Eubank Jr., thank you very much.